So here is the final product. Mostly final, I guess, not actually final. This is the enclosure that I covered in this kind of felt material. It's kind of like a white felt, mostly to add more padding for underneath the cloth, just to add a little bit more texture. That way, once you touch the material, I guess, it's not just touching the straight plastic and feeling hard, it's a little bit more soft. Um, this I just sprayed glued on and kind of pushed it into the crevices and the seams. There are some places where the crevices kind of added up, and I had to make cuts like right here and mend it together. But with a little bit of work and time, I can make those invisible, and then with the fabric on top, you'll barely see them. There are some areas like this bottom part here, this bottom portion, where or there was a cut, because I didn't buy a brand new square piece of felt. I just used some felt that we had at home just to save a little bit of money, and not have to deal with going to go get more felt when we have some at home. But it ended up working out pretty well. The seams are at the bottom mostly, so they'll be a little bit harder to tell. Um, and then, like I said, a little bit more time, I can kind of mend those together and not have to deal with the seams. Right here, I'm testing a little bit of the technique that I'm using to kind of adhere the fabric to the felt, because I want to make sure that I don't use too much adhesive to where it makes the gray fabric a little bit hard. I'm trying to work it out, see if I can use less adhesive, um, just to get that final texture right. And then again, this is the fabric that I'm going to be using. It's like a speaker fabric. Um, After looking at it a little closely, I can kind of compare it to kind of what is used in headliners in a vehicle. So this is kind of like a headliner fabric. And then my last update, I didn't show any of the other parts I got. So here's the belt I got to make this a belt-driven, I guess, robot. I did belt because that's a lot quieter, a lot simpler. Here's the sprockets that came with the belt. I got a few of them right here. Um, this mini sprocket will attach straight to the motor. And then here's a 3D printed sprocket that I got, or not got, but I 3D printed on the printer. This will be connected to the entire enclosure of this, just because I don't want the motor to spin the entire enclosure too fast. So I kind of did a ratio to give more torque and less speed. Um, this belt, even though it's not a closed loop, it's really easy to mend together just by splicing it, looping it, and then melting the ends together, because it kind of makes it tacky, and then you can do that, and I found that that's very well. These are the microphones I ordered as well. I have about 20 in here, but I'm only going to be using about 4 or 5. Um, and I can connect these in series or parallel depending on what works for me. Um, they're not too big, but they're also not too small, and there'll be about 1 on each side of it, and then there'll be 2 on the screen. Maybe 3 on the screen, depending on how I feel in the end. This is the bearing that the entire enclosure will kind of sit on. It'll be lifted from the base a little bit, and the entire enclosure will be able to spin on this bearing. Here's the camera module. I just grabbed a webcam, the cheapest one I could find, $10 on Amazon, and I took off the enclosure. So now it is just the webcam. So it's a little bit thicker than I would have liked, but it's at least not too bad. Without the enclosure, I'll kind of blend it in with the screen. And then here are the calipers I ordered to help me with the measuring. I've been needing some for a while, and these will do wonders for me measuring parts. This was able to help me measure the belt, make sure I got everything the right width for the 3D printed sprocket, as well as measuring out the bearing to have kind of it sit perfectly in the middle and kind of have a sleeve on the outside. Using the calipers to also measure like the microphones, the camera module, the thickness. I was able to use it to measure the circuit board thickness on the inside for the modules. So it's been very helpful so far. cross my fingers. Hopefully, I'll be able to get this fabric on here nicely. Hopefully, it'll still stay soft and smooth and won't have like a little bit of roughness. And then once I'm able to pick up the screen from the school, then I can start measuring the screen and 3D print the enclosure for that. And then once I have most of the parts put together, then I can start working on the software side. So it's going to kind of work putting the components together first, like the motor, the belt, the bearing, microphone, stuff like that, and then making everything work together. So I guess that's it. So hopefully by this Monday I'll be able to get the parts, and then by Tuesday or Wednesday I should be able to give another update.